it started in US. OpenAI is located there. So if you can get some insights, first is this, what is artificial intelligence, the generative AI, and what is it generative? Why people are so excited, and there are all discussions all around the place. Any one of you can start that discussion and we'll take it forward. But before you start, for participants, I have kept my chat open and I would like to you raise the questions. Then I will group the questions and give it to my panel members. Okay. So Debarshi or Ahmad, you can start first, get demystified the first part of the story, which is emerging.
All right, I guess I'll start. First of all, I would like to thank everybody here for just inviting us. This is a great topic, very timely. Hopefully I can offer some assistance in helping you all just answer these questions. What is artificial intelligence? I think that's actually a question that's been asked for the last 40, 50 years. Everybody has a different meaning to it. In reality, if you go to its purest sense, artificial intelligence is nothing more than the use of computers to mimic what a human would do without knowing that it was done by a human or a computer. If you can achieve that, then you're saying, wow, that thing is as smart as a human. It may have been done by a human, it may have been done by a computer. The fact that you can't tell, that is the intelligence part of it. It's come a long way, and if you remember a lot of the use cases that we keep hearing about at the early parts of artificial intelligence, we've gotten pretty good now in things like computer vision. If I show you an image, we have a pretty good idea of, that's a dog or that's a cat. These are very classic examples. Or it can do natural language processing. You're typing in your word processor and it's telling you what it thinks that you are going to finish in that sentence. That's artificial intelligence. It knows. It could be speech processing. It's basically talking to you, something like Alexa or something like that, where you're actually talking to this device and it's responding back in a word type format as a voice of the text. And then you get into a lot more that you've seen, and these are things like recommender systems. You go to buy something and it's telling you, here's what I would like. Here's what I bought in the past, or here's people that are close to you in demographics and so forth. This is the kind of thing. In the end, and I come from an engineering background, so I may be a little bit more technical than most. It comes down to pattern recognition. If it's something that fits into a pattern that you've seen before, it can infer and say, this is probably what you're thinking about. And probably you, the human being, don't know this, but you do that all the time too. You just don't think of it that way. So it's basically putting a mathematical construct over a problem. Basically, we could get very technical and talk about the features or the actual model building and so forth. But you're trying to find patterns in your data that make sense to you, the domain expert of what you're trying to do. So I hope I wasn't too technical, but just wanted to give you a sense of that's what artificial intelligence is to me.
So, Professor Ahmad, one of the key questions in the minds of the participants, that if it is so, only pattern recognition, computing is there from 1950s. What has changed? Why suddenly people in last 6-8 months are discussing this topic?
Absolutely. That is a great question, Milind. And the bottom line, it's one thing: computing power. The computers have gotten so big and powerful now that it can do appreciable work. Very good example is, think of these self-driving cars. Self-driving cars are out there on the road. They have people's lives, whether you're sitting in it or you're interacting with other drivers. You have to take a snapshot of the image that you're seeing in a real world sense, and then figure out what it is, and then take a look at the current state of my vehicle and where I'm going. And that means things like direction, speed, and so forth. And then to ascertain in a real-time sense what to do. And the whole premise is not to kill people, to be safe, to get to where I'm going in a cost-effective manner. So all of that, to answer your question, it comes down to the computing power. Computing.
So it's, if I might just add a little bit here. So the dimensionality of what we can handle today is a lot more than, what we could handle like maybe 20 years ago or even 10 years ago. So I remember DeepMind, which was kind of like the first sort of AI-powered technique that came on video games and playing chess. So it is not really that different from what we are doing today in computer vision and image recognition. And you can have multiple uses of that. So, like for example, in India, the Aadhaar card is a very nice example of recognition and sort of doing the KYC process. That's a wonderful application, and that has kind of totally transformed the payments system, the financial mechanisms of how we do business in India in a very short period of time. Then the UPI system, which is kind of rides on that, is also using these techniques in order to provide services that previously weren't possible because of this large jump ahead in what we are able to do now. And finally, going back to what you asked Milind at the beginning on the on ChatGPT, so ChatGPT is a large language model. There are a couple of others that are in the field now, like OpenAI that everybody knows, and like last week, I think Meta and Microsoft launched Llama 2, which is their version of this. So we are still at the very beginning stages, and I think that I don't know if I were to generalize, I think the whole excitement and also the whole concern is centered around the fact that there is a potential for tremendous progress, tremendous innovation, and at the same time there is a potential for misuse, and that is the concerning part. And this is not misuse on a single use basis. It is misuse at a scale that we have never seen before. So it is the scaling, the ability to kind of do things at scale, both on the good side and driving innovation, reducing or increasing efficiency to a dramatic extent. That is the wonderful news. But also on the flip side, the concern is whether or not we use it in that manner.
So our participants have started warming up, and they have some interesting questions. So before I come to that question, I just want to get your views on the narratives around this particular AI. One view is it is going to take all the jobs, and perhaps human beings have to live on minimum wages, and perhaps there will not be any jobs. One extreme view. Other extreme view is that ChatGPT and all generate some lot of junk. It is, you cannot trust. I mean, it is just waste of time. And in between, Microsoft says it is a co-pilot, not autopilot. So hybrid, and it is a partnership with human. And my friends have started putting questions because text is everywhere, as you mentioned, large language models. And one of them is it will generate code. So my friend on the audience is asking, will it take away coding jobs? What is your expert view on this?
No,
I mean, this is a fear in IT sector in India today.
Yeah, I love that question because I get it all the time. I've been coding since the early 1980s. I remember mainframe computers, and I go back to Fortran, C, C++. So I've been coding my whole life. The best answer that I would give to the question, will AI cut jobs for coders in the IT sector, is, if you remember, we used to have handheld calculators, and it was a big deal. This is 1970s and 1980s. They're like, oh my God, a calculator. Everybody's going to forget how to do math. I can't do long division. I can't do multiplication. Guess what? We all got better at math because the calculator helped us. Then the IBM PC came out, the original Apple Macintoshes and so forth, they came out. And what we realized is everybody got scared. It's like, oh my God, everybody's going to have a computer on their desk. What are they going to do with that? Well, guess what? We found a use case for that. Everything from shopping to computing, whatever. Then it was the whole thing now is like things like AI, ChatGPT spitting out code. In the end, any coder worth any value will know that ChatGPT cannot write my code for me. It can get me started. It can give me a sense of how to structure my code. But you, the coder, are driving what ChatGPT is going to be using. I teach courses here where I teach, where I have students do code. Invariably, the students, some will come to me and say, I got this from ChatGPT. I said, all right, so does it work? They go, I don't know. I'm like, well, why did you use it? They go, because I didn't know how to do it. Well, that's the problem. If you have an incredible tool now in front of you, you should be able to harness that power to help you. Just like the handheld calculators, just like the PCs when they first came out. This is a tool that's going to make you better, more efficient, but it forces you to be at a higher level of abstraction of the code. You don't have to work out the exact function call properties and so forth. ChatGPT will do that for you, but you have to understand what you should do to get to a point when you ask ChatGPT, is this the actual best way to do it? So I don't view this as taken away from jobs. It's going to make us more efficient in our jobs. And the people that think that it's going to cut our jobs don't fully appreciate that ChatGPT is not the answer to everyone's problems. It's a tool that makes your life a lot easier.
So that is a great answer, but I empathize with my audiences here. So what will your expert advise? Because we have a large students coming out of IT engineering colleges, and obviously normal programming skill perhaps is threatened by that. But the way you are explaining that ChatGPT will do perhaps a part of it, and perhaps there is another skill required how to exploit ChatGPT. So right. What is your advice that what they should do for prepared for the future?
So, Ahmad, can I take a stab at it?
Yeah,
and then
absolutely.
I'll give a very non-technical side of things. So the way I think about it is, that there are different levels. So, like, at the very minimum, you can think of using ChatGPT just as an out-of-the-box model. There's not much gain there, and there is, what you're doing is it's a low-cost thing. You're just involved directly with with putting it in an application. The gain is little, the cost is little, and there, I think you're just automating, automating a little process or something. However, if you go one step down, which is where I think the value of ChatGPT in enhancing efficiency and productivity comes in, which is what Ahmad was talking about, is it speeds up the engineering process that a coder, a developer would be doing, where what you are doing as a developer is using the ChatGPT or similar LLM products to kind of help you build tools, both on the input side as well as the output side, where you streamline the efficiency of this model to help you in your predictive analytics or in your in whatever it is that you're doing, in your selection or your output, however it is you're doing. And then you can go even one level deeper, which is basically you use the actual model infrastructure to build new models that that will kind of perhaps address even more further deeper issues in a further efficient manner. So, there are multiple levels at which I think this will play out eventually. And I don't think that this is going to take away anything. I do think that, however, just as when computers first came on the scene and, there was a skill gap. The skill gap was that, we had to learn how to code. We had to learn how to adapt ourselves so that we could take advantage of the computers. Similarly, I think there is a skills gap right now across globally, where we now have to know how to adapt ourselves to this world of generative AI, which is still at its infancy. And I think that's where, in particular, universities come in, because that's where it is the job of the universities to think about these things, to build programs at all these different levels that I think are important in order to kind of go forward and build the skills at these different levels so that, so that people who can drive these techniques going forward really benefit in integrating themselves to this new economy. So Ahmad, you can maybe further elaborate on this.
No, I mean, I totally agree with everything you said. I think the key is that the skill sets that we have as coders will evolve into using ChatGPT as a tool to help us become better coders. When I started, we just sat behind a computer and we just started typing, and we finally got something that works. Now I'll go to things like GitHub and see who else has done something like this. Or I'll go to Colab and see if there's anything there. Now I have this other option is I can use ChatGPT. So I don't think coders will ever go away. And the one thing we should talk about, generative AI in general and ChatGPT in particular, it can only regurgitate what it's seen before in the past. It cannot develop something new. So if you're working will ChatGPT be able to create the next version of itself? In theory, it shouldn't. Maybe the AI people are smart enough that they have a way to actually do that. But I'm just saying, you're still in control. So don't be afraid of it. Just embrace it and learn how to best use it to help you do your job. And coding, as I'm sure we know, a lot of the coding people in the audience, it's a very complex thing. Extremely complex. You can have a ChatGPT code for one use case and a ChatGPT code for another use case, but the two use cases have to work together in a common code base. That's something ChatGPT is probably not good at yet, but that's something that coders will have to address.
Okay, that's a great answer. But Abhijit, I think you got an answer, but just to frame that. The IT coding jobs, whether they will be in the same shape, looking at what my expert panel has answered, perhaps there will be some transformation. Some will get augmented, some will get transformed. So I think the new job category of coding will evolve. It
Absolutely.
will not be the same mundane coding. It will be new intelligent job category where judgment will be yours. And perhaps the back-end labor-oriented part ChatGPT will do. That is what
it's a great answer. Great answer.
Yeah, no, actually, I think, Milind, if I might add a little bit to it, I mean, just last week, there was the first ever UN Security Council meeting on generative AI. And by what the UN estimates, the net addition to the global economy between now and 2030 is around 15 trillion from generative AI. So on the whole, I think it is something that is going to add value to what we are doing now, not take away value.
Okay, so Abhijit, you can have a follow-up questions. By that time, I will take the next question. Can you please expand more AI in generative AI in healthcare and research? I think you can split between both of you. One of you can take healthcare, other can research, because that is very interesting. ChatGPT in research. So I think that is.
Well, I can take a stab. I don't have much knowledge on the healthcare side, but I do use AI in research a little bit, and I think there are huge benefits in integrating it on your research. So I can tell you that using NLP models that do semantic analysis. That's kind of what I do in my research. Really has transformed the extent of what we can do and how quickly we can do it. So I think in general, these things obviously help us get ahead quickly, or help us kind of define new boundaries, what we haven't been able to do before. And I think that is true in particular. I don't think there is concern there. In healthcare, I think there is, the little that I know, it has the ability to transform or speed up processes. So I think going back to what Professor Namini said a little bit earlier about how how we should think about generative AI is that at the end of the day, it is human driven. So it is around putting constraints around or building mathematical constraints around the processes so that it does what we want it to do. And we limit it to, we kind of, if we are able to do that, then it is definitely going to, we are in the driver's seat, and it's definitely going to help us gain efficiency in that manner. So I think the, to sum up, I do believe that it is going to speed up many areas in biotech, in AI, in coming up with more personalized medicine. Perhaps that's kind of the use case where these models will have the greatest impact, because you can now, the dimensionality is what it can manage. And so in personalized medicine, it can take care of the huge number of dimensions that a model needs to address to go there.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just add about the healthcare. One of the things that we saw during COVID is that when the research industry, the pharmaceutical companies put their mind to it, they can achieve something in record time. I think usual US from concept to actual approval from the Food and Drug Administration here in the United States is usually 8 to 10 years. They got this done in less than 2. Okay, I mean, it's incredible. AI should even enhance that. One of the biggest things, and you see this all the time, is developing new protein sequences for drug discovery. That's a lot of data. It's a lot of computing power. It's perfect for AI. It'll probably get even better. And there's a cost incentive, is that it's not, I shouldn't say it's hard because I don't really know 100%, but it's just the sheer sample size that you have to address is something that any one engineer or one scientist cannot do. And we need AI. And I'm going to throw this out term, is one of the things that are lacking right now in the entire industry is that the scale of the compute infrastructure. Like if every pharmaceutical company has their own computing facilities, it's inefficient. That's probably the way it's going to be. But if they were to have a shared facility, because it's going to need that quantum ability to solve a lot of these drug discoveries, healthcare analytics in general. So I think the scaling of the compute infrastructure is going to be a big deal. And 2 is the data licenses. Everybody's collecting data, a lot of data. Why can't we have like one data that I collect and then I sell to you? I think that's going to become a really big emerging industry. It's there already, but that's basically going to be things that we are going to morph into. Because always remember, AI is a function of data and the models that we build around it. And we need lots of data to get a good model.
Just to supplement, I think research, there are many opportunities. I don't know who has asked that question, but we are at SPJIMR as well using ChatGPT in the research, very intelligent and ethical way, right from identifying interesting research topics in academics, identifying which are the ways how you can connect interesting points in literature review, because it is text and it can review, connect the dots using networks of those nodes. You can have ChatGPT connected with Google Scholar, and that marriage can throw up a number of interesting ideas that where the gaps are on that. So if you are interested, we can have a separate conversation and we can drive that. And same thing happens in healthcare research, because healthcare research primarily is also based on patient records, which is also a large text. You also have prescriptions, which is also a large text. And if you can have those particular things go after ChatGPT like model, perhaps interesting patterns can emerge, which can drive both improvement in healthcare and pharma. So there are many ways, but because of the time, I will go to the next question. On that,
actually,
there is a, pardon me?
Milind, if I can put in one example that I think just came to my mind related to this, on using ChatGPT in research. The trick is how do you format your query?
It is a prompting exactly. And getting the text and then getting insights out of that. I agree with
exactly. So just a very silly example here. What if you give it a very open-ended question, ChatGPT can actually give you very credible looking answers that are completely made up. So your query has to be very focused and very so you have to be the subject matter expert when you're asking ChatGPT what you want to know.
So
and that will actually help you get the query or the answer that you really helps improve the efficiency.
I cannot agree more. ChatGPT will give you, but ultimately you are the judge whether it is useful or useless. ChatGPT cannot be put on autopilot because it is a sure shot recipe for disaster.
Milind, I think that's the smartest thing anybody here has said so far, because you're absolutely right. We used to have a saying, garbage in, garbage out. If you don't know what's going into your model,
so you
have no idea what's coming out of your
whether
model.
It is coder, whether it is researcher, applying his judgment will not get replaced for foreseeable future. So perhaps you have to upgrade your skills, how to intelligently partner with it.
Your job will morph from something that you've traditionally thought of, but you're still going to have a job and you're going to become more efficient. And, it's scary. It's getting totally out of hand. We're changing technologies and new ways of doing things every 5 years or 4 years. I don't know. Back when I was a kid, it was every 20 years, and my parents and their parents, it was every 100 years. It's like, it's changing.
So there is a very interesting question from Akshay. I think I would like to take that. He says it is all text all over the place and you have journalism. So there could be a lot of fake news. I assume that is what he is mentioning. And how do you tackle these menace of fake news? Because it will generate a lot of this news and create a lot of problem in society. So do you have anyone? Because that is the negative side of ChatGPT today.
Yeah, I unfortunately am not a politician, so I'm not sure that I can answer that to the satisfaction, but I can only say there is a distinct caution on my part that if people generate news, which they do all the time now in a non-AI world, and people believe it, then it is the reality. ChatGPT can do that at a scale much larger and a lot more detrimental to the society. So I don't know the answer to your question, but I think it's not a ChatGPT question. It's a perception of how you want to consume the information. And if you just blindly believe it, then that's a problem.
No, but his broader question, are there any efforts, or do you think people can develop skills? Because that will also open an opportunity towards an additional professional of detecting or managing this entire ecosystem of fake news.
No, absolutely, Milind.
I think I think he's doing that. Tomorrow you drive also programs. So do you have this discipline which perhaps will emerge as a new job category?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I'll go back to my previous statement that there are different levels at which you engage with ChatGPT. So the fake news level, if you, as Ahmad was saying, if you believe whatever ChatGPT spits out, which is you're blindly following generative AI at your own peril, okay? So you would have to engage it in order to address that problem. You would have to engage it at the second level down, where you build tools, and the tools can be both input oriented or output oriented. In this case, it should be output oriented, which is basically the verification of whatever is coming out of ChatGPT. So that tool you need to build in order to kind of identify or filter out the issues. And obviously you can go down one more level and engage or build different generative AI models. That would take a whole other level of set of skills that will solve the problem inherently inside the box. The issue here is that it is a black box, and we don't know what is going on inside it. So how we engage with it matters a lot. So if we engage with it blindly at the top level, which is 100% believing whatever is coming out of it, then there are issues there. But I'm not saying that 100% of the use cases would be fraudulent. It will not be. And that depends on how you query these models. You can get a lot out of it at that level as well. But to really kind of engage, you have to come down one level and build processes, tools, algorithms around it that addresses what your concern is. And I think that that's the skill gap. That is the minimum skill gap that we need to address right away in order to kind of move forward.
There is one question, perhaps I'm not clear, but I will read out and any one of you can able to take it. In the age of AI, how we as an analyst would able to identify counterfeit data generated using AI without consent, due to which serious damage can be done to brand value. I think it is from the news to data it has come, but I think it is not clear unless any one of you want to take that thing, because one of my audiences has asked that question. Right?
Yeah, it's a great question. The fact that that question was asked, that's the kind of person that I want to work with, because there are the 4 V's of data. You know, we got volume, we got, oh God, I forgot them now.
Velocity.
Yeah, volume and the velocity.
Veracity.
Yeah, there is the one that that's important to me is the veracity,
Correct.
which is who is the source of this data? Where is it coming from? Who are these people that are like telling me this data? And a very good example, and this goes back to your previous question, is putting on the hat of a skeptic. Let's assume there is no AI. I go to 20 people and I say, blah, 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 here's a question. And they all answer with different answers, or some have the same answer, whatever. Who do I believe? It really comes back to me. I have to have some filter from experience, from expertise of some sort that I have acquired, that this is the right answer, or this is the way to pursue. Same thing with AI. If people are publishing bad data, or some data that is not intended to be what you thought it was, eventually you have to have a filter to figure that out. How is that? I don't know. So I'm just saying that whole concept of critiquing the data source, the data that is coming in, what it means, that's something that a human will be doing for a while. That's something we have to decide. So I don't know the answer to your question, but I know for a fact that I was on Wall Street for a long time. We would buy expensive data because we knew the data came from a reliable source. That was worth it to us. Okay, maybe that's going to change down the road. I don't know.
So this is one of my audiences also has a very interesting question, because Brandeis Business School is also does marketing related specialization. How will marketing world will change, because ChatGPT is given the content writing now is taking few minutes and it generates very interesting content. So how to bring about this uniqueness with ChatGPT? The impact on marketing, I think.
Yeah, personally, I'm scared of the marketing, because every time I go shopping, they seem to know what I want to buy before I even know what I want to buy. And I'd say 99% of the time they're right. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I wanted. You know, I didn't, it's like, so they're actually doing really good. ChatGPT, from my perspective, so far, I haven't seen the use cases where it's going to help on the marketing yet, but I'm sure it's there. I just don't know about it personally.
Okay, Julie has put a comment and a question. It is key not to be afraid of generative AI, but rather to understand it as well as possible, to have a perspective on how you may use it in your career rather than be unaware. Ahmad said, same as I was typing this. So you want to add to that? That is what Julie Miller has said.
I honestly believe is like, you're not going to go put your head in the ground and be 20 years ago. Embrace it. Absolutely, positively. It's not going away. So you might as well just accept that fact and just embrace it. And in the technology, and, you know, at least in my career, We have to embrace things every 3-5 years, and that we just like, well, I know how to do it the old way. Well, it doesn't matter. You got to go with the new way. You have no choice. So by embracing it, then you find out that you actually have more perspective knowing the old ways and now the new ways. And then for the entrepreneurs amongst us, we can say, aha, I have even a better way. And let's start a company. Let's have a new patent. Let's build this, whatever. It's good. That's what we're here for. That's what young, inquisitive minds, whether they're India or in the US, this is good. This is good. So I would definitely not be afraid of it under any circumstance. Understand it. It's going to change the way you do work, business, home life, whatever it is. So try to figure it out. That's like I really like the fact that we at Brandeis are a business school, because we can work with the computer science school here. We can work with the engineers and so forth. Business says, how can I take all this and monetize it to make a corporate entity, or how to create a new process that has certain applicability to multiple industries and so forth. It's the same problem, but it's a different flavor. And I kind of like that.
So one of my audiences,
if I might add a little bit to it, I mean, this is a tool that's going to transform, innovation in a very big way across industries. So if you look at the venture capital community globally, I think they are very excited about the possibilities of using generative AI and other models such as NLP, or in a very big way in enhancing productivity and developing new products across the spectrum. Whether it's in manufacturing, and you've already seen it in manufacturing, and let's say the auto industry with self-driving cars and things like that are essentially applications of AI in that. So in that sector, and that'll just transform how we go forward. You're seeing it in our predictive models on weather, for example, like identifying storms before we are able to we get hit by that. And and as the climate change kind of issues get worse or get more random, these kind of models can actually help us, because they are able to handle a lot more data, a lot more sort of patterns, incorporate those in their modeling to give us these outputs. So I think the private sector or the private venture capitalists are really, really excited about what the potential possibilities are. And I might be a little bit, so there's obviously a lot of concern, and I see a lot of questions about, deep fakes and worry about how people are, misusing it. And that is true. That's there. Apart from that, there is also the use of this in military systems and in defense-oriented applications, which could be a concern. Would you hand over the nuclear codes to an AI model? And there might be a day in the future where somebody will. So those are the issues, I think, that require sort of like a global, like places at the UN, and that's what the UN is for. You need global cooperation. You need global collaboration to build perhaps regulatory structures, something like what we have in climate change, the intergovernmental agencies that kind of coordinate this across different countries to lower the concerns that we have about generative AI. But at the heart of it, this is not something that is there to be afraid of, because all that we need to do is adapt and build the skill set that we need in order to kind of take advantage of the technology that it brings to us. And that's, I think, the way in which we should think about how to go forward, apply this in different industries, because that really is going to increase the efficiencies so far that we have known.
that I think answers the next question, which is there on the audience one. Is it true the extension of AI is dangerous to humans? I think you have covered that adequately, including whether AI can push a nuclear button, I think. Right. So I will move to the next one. Sir, could you please go through, throw some light on ethical consideration and guidelines when designing and conversational AI system? Recently, I came across the case where some folks are utilizing deepfake AI in a bad way to make the money.
Wow.
Ethical,
I mean,
lot of
I think, I look at all these questions in the same light because they're all kind of variants of what you're asking is, can generative AI do this? And the answer is yes, it can do it if you are not controlling it. Will it do it? The answer is yes, it will do it. If you kind of give it a query that is very open-ended, it will make up stuff and give it back to you. It can do it. So the answer is in building the tools that you need so that these outcomes don't happen. And as I said, that's one level, or I shouldn't say one level down, that is one level up from where most people are today in terms of what do we do when we see ChatGPT? We go and type in something and see what it gives back to us. That is at the ground level, right? That is not where we want to be. We want to be one level up, and that's the skills gap that we have to overcome. So at the very minimum, that is the skills gap that we need to overcome.
Yeah, I was going to also add that, a lot of this could be evolutionary because when the internet first started, it was incredible. We have email. I can send an email to somebody in India. They can send something back to me. There's no post office, whatever. And it was incredible. It was so efficient. And then eventually we found out people were using something called spam, which was a word for, I'm pretending to be somebody else so that you'll click on something. So you'll send me money. And you're like, oh my God, this is horrible. Next thing you know, you have 8,000 spam emails every day and you only get like 24 really legitimate. It's evolutionary. We're going to find out what these problems are. We're going to see where it is, and then we're going to address it. And in the end, and this goes back to the business component of it, however it's going to be addressed, it's going to be in a way that gives entrepreneurs and companies the ability to flourish and is going to make the end user want to do it or to use it or to actually adopt it. Why? It's cost effective, it solves my problem, and I don't have to deal with it anymore. So those types of questions, I think, are evolutionary. We don't know what the problem is yet. We have an idea, maybe there's a solution, and there'll be a better solution down the road. But again, it's going to be driven by economics.
And also the models will evolve as we go forward. So it's truly evolutionary in that sense that, in another 5 years, we will probably have a model that would make ChatGPT look like nothing.
Yeah, so there is a very interesting question from Mahesh. How to learn to effectively use large language tools like ChatGPT in our coding career? Give us some tips, and I think what he meant, whether Brandeis has some seminars with SPJIMR, where they can have some little more about the, below the hoods kind of tricks. Mahesh is asking that question.
Yeah, I see that question. It's a great question. I honestly believe this, Mahesh, is his question is effectively this: how to learn to effectively use LLM, large language models tools like ChatGPT in our coding career. I honestly believe this. You should learn coding without large language models first, because you need to develop, it's like, I have a car. Do I have to know how the car works at the internal combustion engine? No. But you know what? If I did, I know my car better. And my point is, forget large language models first, learn to code. Then use large language models to make my coding more efficient, more scalable, and then you'll become a greater coder. I honestly believe that, and I'm sure that there's 100 people out there that will say, no, but that's too slow, that's inefficient. You'll be a better coder. I'm telling you, you learn the fundamentals of what coding is, how to take a thought, an idea, put it into a computer recognizable form. Once it's in that form, to build test scripts, to build the code, to do regression testing, whatever it is, to build a code that works for all time. Then the large language models will make you better. This is only for students. If you're working and you have 20 years experience, it's kind of too late. You know, it can be hard to adopt large language models. And if you do, you may be doing it just a way to maintain the status quo. Code of the future is going to be a lot more involved, a lot more difficult, but at the same time, you'll have a lot more tools to help you scale these problems better. So to answer that question, because I like that question a lot, because I think about that, is I would say as a student, a young computer programming student, don't use any LLM yet. Once you've mastered, then start using LLM. So I'm not saying don't use it. I'm saying learn the fundamentals first.
There is another following question from Shubhangi, but before I pose that questions to both of you, in India, there is a large drive towards research. And I think this GPT-based or BART-based, one of the two, there are a lot of platforms come. I'm not talking about ChatGPT alone, but there are a lot of platforms like Connected Papers, Humata, and you name all those platforms. Many of them are saying that, you know, Chat PDF. There is another one which is summarizing your research article and all. And there are many workshops getting conducted today, how generative AI can be used in academic research, which is very scan, read oriented, where there is a use case of this intelligently doing. So she has put a question. So recently researchers have reported that AI is giving citations that do not really actually exist, which is true, because I have also tested that, but which also puts the data it provides in questions. Do you think people are prepared for it? And is that safe or trustworthy? It's a very loaded question, but your views, please.
No, I think that's absolutely true. It's a very good question. And, you know, from personal experience, I can tell you that, you know, that has happened in my experience as well. So how do we address these issues? So what actually one of my colleagues found is based on how you query, how focused you make your query on these generative AI models. And if your query is focused enough. So for example, you know, I'm a finance professor. So if I'm looking at a particular area in finance and I want a summary of all the research in that area, I can easily identify published papers in certain journals that then I can use the generative AI tool to summarize. And I think it does a tremendous job of that of that particular use case. But I have to exactly tell it which journals to look at, what areas to look at, and what kind of papers I'm interested in, theoretical, you know, empirical, and so on. So that's sort of how, you know, if you give it a structured query, I think it's really helpful, and it really you know, it does the summary in a matter of minutes, whereas if you did it yourself, it would probably take a week or two to kind of get to that same level. However, if your query is not really that structured, if it's just tell me something about a particular area, it can not only give you random things, it will also make up things and you know, spit it out to you. So it's a matter of learning how you kind of use it and how you adapt to it. And I think that's really the way of sort of making sure that you're getting back something that is valuable and not garbage. And, you know, I think we're keep coming back to the same point that at the end of the day, you are in the driver's seat, and it is you who have to figure out what is the right way of kind of going about it. And I think at the very basic level, it's for many of us, it is a skills gap still. So we might have to kind of learn new things in order to adapt to it. Then it'll be very useful.
Okay, there was a question from Akshaya. Akshaya, both the faculty members are Brandeis Business School from Boston, but I will ask them question because he's asking whether Columbia University is best to learn AI. But I'm not from the US, so I will give that question to them.
What was the question? Is it
Columbia University is best to learn AI?
Yeah, I mean, I see it now. Is Columbia University the best to learn AI? I personally don't know. I think I personally believe that people get more out of education based upon the effort that you put in yourself. So is Columbia a great university? My wife went there. She tells me it's a great university, so I can't argue with her. But the bottom line is I don't know the answer. However, I would say is that AI, artificial intelligence, just keep this in mind. You're going to need to learn computing, mathematics, and scientific, thought process in general. And then the ones that I like are the ones that also have an applied sense to it. So for instance, I want to learn AI in finance. I want to learn AI in marketing. I want to learn AI in sports analytics and so forth. So the fact that I think a lot of the audience today, at least this was told to me, these were engineers and mathematicians, that's great. Columbia is a great school. That's all I can say. So my guess is it's very good in AI. Is it the best? I don't know.
Okay, Abhijit, whether AI is effective in physical process for manufacturing? Absolutely, yes. Industry 4.0, quality control, all Industry 4.0, I think majority part is AI. So because we are in generative AI, I will go to the next question from Dr. Raj. He says, nowadays scholars are using various AI techniques to write their research papers, specifically through ChatGPT. What do you think about the approach? Is good or not? I think we have taken this question, but I will like one or two key points from our esteemed panelists. Would you like to re-emphasize the point which we have done for Dr. Raj?
Yeah, I mean, I think going back to my comment just a little while ago is it is how you're using it. Obviously, if you are using it for your own research, it is tremendously helpful. If you're using it to submit a term paper, as a student to something, then, let me assure you that we have tools that can detect that very easily. So I would say don't attempt it.
Okay, there is a question from Jennifer. Are you worried that students may use platforms such as ChatGPT too much? For example, writing qualitative equity research report. If so, could this be considered a form of plagiarism? I'm not sure about plagiarism, but I will pass on that question to them.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the same point that we are getting with, and it's not just this panel, like you see it all the time, because ChatGPT feels like it's doing something for me that I don't have to do. It feels like, this is great. I can spend 20 minutes on a project that would have normally taken me 2 days. That's the whole premise that's wrong. You're in charge of this. You should be going and trying to create the best project in ever. Students rely on it too much because they're thinking, I need to get something to the professor as an answer, as opposed to, I should be learning about this process or about this topic. And ChatGPT could help me, or it may slow me down. I don't know. It's the wrong premise to the question. We are relying on it way too much. Okay, so I guess that answers the question. Is it plagiarism? I don't know. I'm not a legal expert, but I think that students are doing a disservice to their own self by investing in school and then throwing it into ChatGPT and going, I have the answer. You're just wasting your time. All you've learned to do is how to type into ChatGPT.
Correct.
I mean, my take on this is the same as it is with the current standard, which is if I copy and paste and do not attribute it currently in a report that I write, that is the definition of plagiarism. Basically, if I copy and paste and pass it on as my own independent thought, that is plagiarism. If I use ChatGPT to do exactly the same thing, I would consider it plagiarism. However, if as Ahmad said, if I use it in order to speed up a particular process or research that helps me then distill that information and write a report, I wouldn't consider it plagiarism.
We are running out of time and I'm left with a lot of other questions. So a couple of questions I will take before wind up. One of them from Shubhangi, because she has a follow-on question. So I would like to take that. Following on the response, should prompt engineering be added to curriculum of MBAs?
I think that's an extremely good question. And I think that my personal answer is yes. So you don't need so there are two aspects of this. One is the technical engineering aspect of building the actual product, whatever it is. And the other is the strategic business angle of it, of how you're kind of integrating it with these LLM models and what is the product that you're building at the end of the day? What's the business case for it? So in an MBA curriculum, I think it is more of the strategic part that definitely needs to be incorporated, because at the end of the day, it is about product development. It is about creating a new market and a new source of revenue for the company. How do we integrate that with the engineering side? I think that's the next step where, if you have the concept for what you want to do, if it's your own startup, you take on a co-founder who has the necessary technical skills to come along with you. Like, for example, if I have an idea of how I would like to do something in a particular area that utilizes generative AI, I would ask Ahmad to come on, pitch him the project, and then we will build it together. So that's my way of looking at it.
So there is a follow-on question, exactly what you said, Debarshi, that whether this can be used for a startup idea on handicrafts, arts, and sculptures, and how generative AI can help for startups in this area.
So I know that a generative AI has been very helpful in in creating computer art, right? And actually allowing people to express artistic ideas through computer art and or in using these models. So if I don't have the skills to kind of do that, but I can use these models in order to help me create that. So that's a very good use case. I think that perhaps might transfer to handicrafts, perhaps might transfer to that that whole creative industry as well.
So I think we are exactly 1 hour and we are running out of time. First of all, I would like to thank all the participants with assurance that we'll work with Brandeis School, perhaps have a follow-on session because I have a lot of unanswered questions still going on. Thank you all for asking very exciting, interesting, thought-provoking questions. I would like to also thank Professor Debarshi and Professor Ahmad for their insightful views on generative AI. And I'm quite sure they will be happy to have follow-on conversations, perhaps a very distilled manner to help segment of population of building skills, or the curriculum question came, or research. Perhaps that could be an opportunity. So final thoughts from you, each one of you, 1 line each, before we wind up, and perhaps these people will wait for our next announcement when we are having next conversation. But before I close, final thoughts.
Sure. Well, first of all, this was very interesting, and I would like to thank you, Milind, for putting this together, and to the SPJIMR, the many people who are behind this who helped shape this. So thank you. Secondly, I hope we do have many follow-on conversations, because This was interesting, and I think that there is a lot of opportunity, in particular for universities, to collaborate to build programs that actually actively addresses these skill gaps and help propel people into very exciting careers. This is sort of new. There are multiple applications in many different industries, and I think that's as academic institutions, we should aspire towards helping you reach your goals in all of these areas. So thank you.
Yeah, I too would just like to thank everybody from SPJIMR. The people have been absolutely wonderful. I was talking to one of the directors yesterday about some of the previous students that I have had in my classes here at Brandeis that actually come from your school. And I can tell you, I can attest that they're incredible students, bright, articulate, hardworking. They're a dream to have. So I can only assume that everybody in this audience is of the same ilk. So I wish you all the best of luck. I also say is go for it. Don't just try to take the easy road out. Go for it. The world is changing. You guys are in your early 20s or something like that. Go for it. And if you want to do AI, go for it. And it's not easy. So what? Nothing is easy. If it were easy, it would have no value at all once you can do it. It's hard. And the beauty of your program that I've seen, and just Brandeis in general as well, is that there's a lot of people here that have your best interest at heart. We want you to succeed, but the goal is still up to you. So hopefully I'll get to see you guys again sometime in the near future.
Yes, with assurance that we will continue this conversation. We'll get more curated and very focused some of these topics explored. And thank you all.